Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to What's Happening. My name is Chloe Cooley, and today this episode is just with me. I'm just going to be reflecting on the season. So, this might be a shorter episode, or it might not, because sometimes I decide to ramble. But basically, I a few weeks ago had someone cancel on me, and my fiance was like, "You should just do an episode by yourself and like reflect on the season." So I was like, no, because I did not think that I could talk that long, and I still don't really know if I can talk for any significant amount of time just by myself, but we will see what happens. So um yeah, I just kind of wanted to do like a reflection because this is going to be the last episode of the semester, at least for right now, for the season. We might be picking it back up in the summer. Um, don't know for sure yet, but we might be continuing it in the summer. And in the summer it will probably be just me. It'll be a little bit of a different show where it's just kind of me talking about like the news and current events and things. There are a few people that I might have on in interviews just because they have really wanted to come on and were unable to work with the schedule that I was given this time around, which is perfectly understandable. It's a very early hour to do a radio show, I will say. Um, so yeah, I'm just gonna do a little reflection, talk about each episode and kind of what I took away from it. So the first episode was what seems like forever ago to me now. That was January 30th. That was with Dr. Barnett. So Dr. Barnett, I have him as my teacher. Well, not really anymore because the semester has ended, but I had him as my teacher. And well, basically this show kind of started kind of out of nowhere. My teacher, Dr. Teddy, was like, "You need to do a radio show." So that's why it did not start at the very beginning of the semester. But I it was decided that I was doing a radio show on Tuesday or on Friday, and then I had to find someone to be my first guest, or else I was going to do the first one alone, which I really didn't want to do. So I emailed basically every teacher that I have had or do have right now, and Dr. Barnett was the first one to get back with me. So my first episode, um, we've definitely improved a lot since then. I don't think it was bad, but listening back to it now, it's like, wow, I've really gotten a lot more comfortable behind this microphone, obviously, because I'm doing it by myself today. Um, but the first episode was titled "The Importance of Civic Education," and that was really just kind of what I wanted to talk about because I felt like it would be a good introduction to the show. So kind of being like, why are we doing this show? And the general answer is like to educate people about politics and current events and all types of things that these professors have a lot of experience in. So that was kind of why I wanted to do that. Now, if you were listening way back then, still listening now, you obviously know that we went a little off topic. We started talking about traveling and all types of things, which normally does happen with Dr. Barnett. That's very on brand for him, which is perfectly fine. I mean, that's kind of what we're here for. A lot of these episodes have gone on a tangent, so that's a-okay. But I think the interesting thing is I was so panicked. Like the station director, Katie, she could tell that I was so nervous to do the first episode, and so we've just obviously grown a lot since then doing that. Um, and yeah, I think it was a good point to start with. That I think it gave some good background to the show. So I think that's really important, and everybody's got to start somewhere. You know, your first episode is not gonna be good most of the time. Like I always think of The Office, and the first episode of The Office is it's almost unwatchable, to be honest. Like, not comparing myself to The Office, but I'm saying like most people are not gonna hit it out of the park on a pilot ep. Doesn't normally happen. Um, and then my next episode was with Dr. Nam. So I think that that was a really good episode. And one of my friends, Jonathan, who I had on the show, he said that that was like his favorite episode because it was so interesting. And I think it was very interesting. I've obviously, like I said in the episode, never traveled to that area of the world, but I would if I had the opportunity. Um, so I think that was a very interesting episode. I think he had a lot of good points to talk about with just the global issues that are going on. And I would be curious to know what he had to say about how things have escalated. It's like every day there's something else, but I would be very interested to know, what he had to say. And that episode is maybe the most research I've ever done for anything in my entire life, I will say. Because I was just trying to have a good understanding of everything that we talked about. And we talked about a lot of different things on that episode. And I think it was a great episode. Um, Obviously, like I said, much improvement from the first one. Um, so yeah, I think that one was really good. Um, I'll kind of do like a longer recap at the end, but I just wanted to kind of go through and remind. Oh yeah, and the episode with Dr. Nam was called A Global Perspective, and I will give credit. Most of these titles come from Jonathan Duncan, who I had on my show, because he's good with things like this. Like he edits my show half the time and gives me titles, so all types of things. So yeah, thank you, Jonathan. But the next episode, which was episode 3, was with Brady Burns, and I'm kind of sad because that episode did not manage to make it to get streamed because we had a little error with the recording, which is, perfectly fine because things happen with technology all the time, and it was not my fault. It was not anyone at the station's fault. The recording equipment just did not want to work that day, and that's fine. But if any of y'all were listening on that episode, so Brady Burns is a lawyer that I go to church with, and I think he's just a very interesting guy. So that's why I wanted to have him on. And lucky for him, he was the first lawyer that agreed to come on the show. So, yeah, we just kind of talked about law school because I really um wanted some of my classmates to hear like his advice about law school and the LSAT and all things like that. Um, Not to say that I think people that I have class with should not be lawyers, but I think it's something that people should consider more deeply, and hear from someone who has had that experience, which I mean, again, is the point of my whole show. Like, hearing from people who have more experience than you do. So, Brady's episode, this is a great title. Unfortunately, didn't get posted, but From Briefs to Burnout, that's what I titled it. But yeah, because it didn't get recorded. But that's perfectly okay. And yeah, I definitely think that one was one of the better ones. It was pretty good, just because Brady is a hilarious person. I told him he should make his own show because him and Caleb Littlejohn, who I had on a few weeks ago, they are like best friends. And I told them y'all should both make a podcast because like they both came on the show and did a great job. So I was like, obviously, why not? Um, but in my next episode, number 4, I had to count. Was with Dr. Gross, Dr. Ben Gross, and I feel like he gets brought up on every episode somehow. Um, Dr. Gross is a monumental teacher. He's just different, and I said that on the episode I had with him, and just the way that he teaches is so different and unique. And I just really, it just, some reason it works for my brain, and he is just one of the best teachers, and I have taken a class from him for I want to say the last 5 semesters. So yeah, literally every semester except for my first semester of college. So he's probably getting tired of me right about now. And I'm taking another one of his classes in the fall, but he is just, like I said, a monumental teacher. Some people have strong opinions about him, but it's honestly just probably because he makes you actually try in class, which for some schools and majors here, that might not be something that you see all the time. Some people will make their class like an easy A class. That is not Dr. Gross. It's very hard. He's gonna make you learn. He's gonna make you struggle through it. Um, and that's really why I wanted to have him on my show, because Jonathan Duncan, who I keep bringing up, I was kind of torn about what to talk about with Dr. Gross, and he just brought up that idea of talking about discussion-based education, which is what the episode was titled. And that's how Dr. Gross teaches. If you've had a Dr. Gross class, you have to sit in a circle and everybody has to talk. And if you don't talk, then your grade suffers. And I know for some people that sounds like a nightmare. And for freshman year Chloe, it was a nightmare. I hated it. But, then I started dating a guy who doesn't know how to stop talking, and it stopped becoming less of a problem. So that's why I wanted to have Dr. Gross on. And I mean, it was a great episode. I got such good feedback from it. Dr. Gross, I think I said this on the episode, he used to have a radio show and did that while he was in college too. And you can tell he really knew what he was doing. So you're grateful for that. And if I do the show in the summer or in the fall or whatever, I'll probably have Dr. Gross back on, just because he is my favorite teacher ever, and he's just a funny guy. He cracks me up, even though he's constantly making references that I don't get, talking about baseball and all types of things. Okay, well, the next one is Dr. Paul Beasley, and the episode was called The American Culture Shift. And I thought this was a very interesting episode, personally, just because I think that Dr. Beasley is a very wise person, and he's absolutely hilarious to me. But I was kind of scared to have him on. I will say he's kind of a scary, not saying he's a scary person, but he's just like one of those people that's like so smart that you kind of feel intimidated type of thing. So Dr. Beasley, he teaches about culture in America, and that's why I had him on, because my fiance Hayden, he had his class and would not stop talking about it. He was like, this is the greatest class. This is so interesting, learning about where all these things come from, sports and music and all types of things. And I was like, I can't imagine that it's that interesting. And then, I brought Dr. Beasley on, and he starts telling me all of these things about, how sports can be traced back to like pilgrims and all types of things. I was like, this is really cool. So, history is not my favorite subject to read about, listen about, anything. But I really thought that episode was super interesting. And, like I said, Dr. Beasley, he's a great guy. He is thinking about starting his own podcast with Dr. Paul Hathaway. So if that ever does come about, here's your little teaser. They are not the biggest fans of each other. They kind of get into a lot of arguments, but they want to start a podcast to do that, to have that purpose and have someone just be a mediator between them and just have, kind of academic conversations. And if they ever start this podcast, which I've encouraged them to do, I will encourage all of you to go listen to it. But yeah, that was my episode with Dr. Beasley. I think it was, super interesting, personally. And next was with Dr. Killingsworth. I love Dr. Killingsworth. I think he is a great university president. Such a great asset to this university. And this episode was called The Path to the Presidency. And again, I think that title comes from Jonathan. I thought that this episode was very interesting just because, especially for students of JSU, you might not know too much about your people at the university, that your faculty, your teachers, your anybody, you might not, most students, I would say, are not going to go and look up, their teacher on Google or the JSU website or LinkedIn or something like that and read all their information. And so that's also been a very interesting thing about doing this show, is learning like little details about people, like where they're from, where their family's from, where they got the inspiration to do what they're doing. All of these little interesting things that I think are so interesting, because like I said, most of the time you don't get to hear all those details. So that's why this episode with Dr. Killingsworth was so interesting, because he has done so many jobs, so many different things, so many different titles he has held, and he has just moved all around. And I thought it was very interesting to be able to hear him retelling his story, because like I said, I don't think it's something that most people have heard. And I think that's important. You need to know who is around you and who is actively, advocating for you, like Dr. Killingsworth is. So like I said, I really think that was a very important episode for especially people here at JSU. But, there's always something that anyone can take away from these episodes, anyone that's listening. So after that was, for sure, one of my favorite episodes was with Judge Randy Moeller. And I loved this episode. I thought it was so funny, honestly, just because Judge Moeller is hilarious. I thought it was so funny. And he, like I said in the episode, he's the only person that has ever managed to make court interesting, at least in my opinion, from the many court cases that I've seen. And I think, similar to everything I've been saying, it's good to know, we also talked about law school and how you go through so many different jobs, and that is certainly applicable to classmates of mine and anybody looking to go into law, but also to just kind of see the background of things. Like, most people see a judge only for like the short minutes of a court case, but there is a lot of background work that goes into it. And so that's why I think it's so important to, give credit where credit is due. Judges do a lot. He does a lot of reading and writing all day long. And that's something that most people would not see and even know was happening. So that is, I certainly feel important for everybody to know about. So I think we're going to take a little break, and whenever we come back, I'll continue to talk about the last couple episodes and do another little recap. But yeah, I'm going to play some commercials.
Hey Gamecocks!
September 29th, 2025 will mark 50 years of WLJS 91.9 FM.
To celebrate this momentous achievement, the alumni of WLJS has set up a fundraiser to raise $50,000 for 50 years.
With less than 2 years to achieve this goal, time is a-ticking. Please consider donating to the fundraiser to continue supporting the station for decades to come.
More information can be found on our website at WLJS919.com.
Get moving to Jacksonville State University and help others keep moving with a master's in athletic training. JSU's master's degree in athletic training sets you up for success in a wide range of fields. Athletes and teams definitely need the help of skilled athletic trainers, but so do many people in various medical and industrial fields. As an athletic trainer, you help people prevent injuries before they happen and recover faster for the next game, work, or adventure. Check out a master's degree in this versatile field at Jacksonville State University. Online at jsu.edu/athletic training, jsu.edu/athletic training.
Hey Gamecocks! September 29th, 2025 will mark 50 years of WLJS 91.9 FM.
To celebrate this momentous achievement, the alumni of WLJS has set up a fundraiser to raise $50,000 for 50 years.
With less than 2 years to achieve this goal, time is a ticking. Please consider donating to the fundraiser to continue supporting the station for decades to come.
More information can be found on our website at WLJS919.com.
Hey, so what's a great way to spread awareness that driving high is illegal everywhere? A catchy song, of course.
You can run, but you can't drive high. You can run, but you can't drive high.
Friendly reminder, don't drive high. If you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Okay, everyone, we are back. I did realize that one of those ads played twice. That was unintentional. Like I said, technology sometimes just does what it wants to, and I guess it just did that. Not on me, I promise. But continuing where we were at, so I talked about the episode with Judge Mueller. I think it was a great episode. Super great and fun, and I heard a lot of good feedback. After that, I had someone cancel on me like the day before, I think, which, I don't hold it against people if they cancel. I absolutely understand, life happens, things happen where you are unable to, drive all the way over here. I get it. I absolutely get it. So I asked so many people, I emailed so many people, and I was like, can you please come on my show? And everybody was busy because it was pretty short notice. So the only people that were available were my fiance Hayden and his friend and my friend Jonathan. And if you do not know, for that episode, I put a bunch of random topics on a wheel, and we spun the wheel. And that's how we decided what to talk about. And I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was very funny. We did some research for that episode, I will say. And I think it paid off. I think it was a very interesting episode. Just because, going from a professor's perspective of like, they have a PhD in these topics to students who do not even have an undergrad degree, I think it's very interesting. But it's important to point out that students have a lot of things to say, and sometimes it's good things, sometimes it's not. But we the three of us, we are students of Dr. Gross. We learn by talking. We learned most of the things we've learned by listening to or talking about. So that was just fitting for us to have that little episode where we just kind of, talked about whatever came up. I know we talked about taxes. I know we talked about inflation, a lot of the social media bills that are going around, a lot of very interesting things. So I really enjoyed that episode. And they keep joking about it that Hayden and Jonathan are going to start their own show. I don't know that it'll ever happen. That's kind of the joke of like, will things make it out of the group chat? Probably not, but we'll see. You never know. So that episode was titled A Gen Z Perspective, and like I said, I just kind of came up with that because, I'm pretty sure Hayden came up with that one, actually. I'll give him credit. But because that's what it was. Just Gen Z people giving their perspective on current modern day issues. After that was Caleb Littlejohn, and this is someone that I wanted so bad to have on my show because I think he is super interesting. So Caleb runs the Center for Best Practices in Law Enforcement, and we just kind of talked about his experiences, how he got to running that center, and I think I think it's very interesting, like I think I said this in the episode. I did not know that the Center for Best Practices in Law Enforcement even existed until I went on a tour there. So it's very interesting, and it's something that I'm sure a lot of people did not know existed, but something that we should be grateful for to have in our community. And it's also just interesting to hear, like stories from a police officer, stories from people who had that experience. I think a lot of people watch those types of shows where it's like true crime or those types of things, and I think a lot of us are interested in that because it's entertaining, and Caleb certainly had some interesting stories to tell about that. So that was called Behind the Badge because you're kind of seeing the background of what's actually happening in the police world, deeper than what most people see on TV, which is probably all that most people know about police officers, and most of that is not accurate, as we talked about. So the next episode was with Shane McGinnis, and I thought this was a very interesting episode. He's a very interesting guy. When he showed me the forensics lab at the Center for Applied Forensics, I was like, wow, this is cool and kind of creepy. Because there's just so much equipment in there. I was like, it's kind of insane. But that episode was titled Cracking Cold Cases, and it was titled that because he has solved cold cases, and people that he works with have solved cold cases. So that's where the title came from. But he is a forensic scientist at the Center for Applied Forensics. So he's doing all the cool stuff that we see on TV. The girl from Lucifer, if any of y'all have seen that show, or like NCIS, anything like that. That's what he, taking pictures of things, analyzing things, all of those fun things. That's kind of what he's doing. And teaching people to do, teaching cops to do, teaching students. And I thought it was very interesting. Whenever I did go on a tour there, I just walked into a room and there was all this blood on the wall, and that was because they were teaching students how to take pictures of blood splatters. And I was like, wow, never thought that was something that I would see, but there we were. Yeah, I thought that was a very interesting episode. And I was very happy with it. I was very happy to have him on, with both him and Caleb, because they work together. I was just so happy to have them on, because I was like, super interesting stuff here, at least for me. And they have a lot of knowledge to pass on. I mean, they're dealing with students and faculty and police officers all of the time, as well as, victims of crimes and things like that. So they're dealing with a lot of people, and they obviously had a lot of knowledge to pass on. And then the episode after that was Dr. Lori Owens. I love Dr. Owens. I feel like she is another one of those people that got brought up on every single episode until she was actually able to come on. The episode was called Behind the Headlines, or Beyond the Headlines, if I could read. It's quite early. Beyond the Headlines, and that title comes from, so we talked about all the issues going on in the Middle East right now. Basically everywhere. The Middle East, Russia, China, everywhere's got problems going on right now, basically. And Dr. Owens has traveled to a lot of those areas that are facing these issues. And so I really wanted to get her opinion on those topics. And I just thought that would be super interesting. At least it was interesting for me. But I have heard very good feedback from that episode. Just because Dr. Owens she's hilarious to me, and she also has a lot to say. And also in that episode, we talked about the article that she wrote and the book that she's writing, and she's writing like 6 books right now, I'm sure, And when they all come out, I will be first in line to go buy them, because she is a remarkable woman. Me and Hayden and Jonathan kind of have this joke going on of like, if JSU ever gets a law school, it'll be called the Dr. Lori Owens Law School, because, I mean, she runs the honors department, but she also used to do the pre-law stuff too. I think she still does pre-law advising. So we kind of had this joke of like, if there ever is a law school, that it'll be named after her, because she is a remarkable woman. Truly, she's done a lot of things, traveled all over the place, written a lot of stuff, done a lot of interviews. So I was very lucky to have her on. And she's a very busy woman. You know, she is always running around, so it was hard to get her on the show, but I was very happy to have her on. And that was the last episode. This is the last episode of the season. Like I said, there is talks of me picking this back up in the summer, but it will not really be an interview show as much. It will probably just be a like a news and update type thing, and it'll be shorter. It'll probably be about this length, less than like an hour. But I've also had the idea of, with like maybe with Dr. Gross or Dr. Owens, of one day doing like a more long form interview, just because there's so much that we could talk about. Maybe doing more like a close to 2 hour segment, but there's a lot of things up in the air right now. People are graduating at the station, the command is changing, all types of things. So it's unconfirmed if I will be picking it back up in the summer or not. Hopefully, we're going to be a little optimistic here, but hopefully I'll be able to. And if you follow me and the show on Facebook and Instagram, I will post updates. And once it is determined if I'm doing the show over the summer or not, I will post an update announcing. And I'll kind of discuss this more on the post. But, yeah, thank you. Truly, thank you all so much for listening. I have loved doing the show. I hope I get to keep doing it, because it's super fun. It's been a lot of growth and a lot of learning for me, because technology is not my strong suit, and also talking at 8 in the morning is not too much of a strong suit for me either. But I've done it. I did it, and just kind of a lesson for former me who originally was terrified about doing this. Yeah, I'm just super grateful that I had the opportunity to do it. Super grateful for the people here at WLJS that have allowed me to do it, and like I said, hopefully I'll continue doing it. And yeah, I'm just super grateful. I think I've had a great season. And I'm glad that I got to do a little reflection, talking about all the wonderful people that I've had on. And there are a few people that I will hopefully have on in the future if this continues. I'm not going to give you any teasers, but they're very interesting people. So hopefully everything will work out. But thank you all so much for listening. It's honestly so greatly appreciated. Thank you for the people who have listened from the very beginning, to my mom and dad and Hayden, who have also listened to every episode. Super grateful for all of you. And yeah, thank you all so much for listening. And until next time, this is Chloe Cooley signing off.